Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over what has happened to the stock, what we can expect moving forward for the stock itself. And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts. We have a pretty big day tomorrow with FOMC and OPEX, of course, on Friday as well. FOMC is tomorrow. So let's see what happens, and I'll give you my thoughts on what the current situation with the stock is right now. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc., well, I do these updates live pretty much as the market is trading every single day, mainly on Tesla stock in the first tier for just $3 a month, sometimes other stocks as well, or $5 a month is the second tier, which of course includes NVIDIA. But jumping into it, NVIDIA closing the day down about 3.35%, closing at $115.53. Putting a slight underperformance, maybe slightly in line, you can argue, even with the market, because QQQ was down 1.7%. So the market is still, market is still pretty crazy for sure. No questions about that. The market is still going crazy mode, but there is hope. I don't want to say there isn't hope. The market did make this higher high right here, which is the first time it did it in a while, and it is pretty much retracing right back to the fibs. So there is a chance that Powell comes out tomorrow, swinging pretty nicely, and the market can finally get some fresh air and finally get an actual relief rally before we overall reassess the situation. NVIDIA obviously would be included in that. So NVIDIA, interesting situation. First and foremost, similar to the fibs, it's currently sitting at about the 382 Fibonacci retracement, which is at about this 115 and change-ish region, which it's held in the morning on the drop, and now it's kind of roughly around there at close. So that's going to be the first level to watch for. If the market does decide to tumble further, the next level I'll be watching for NVIDIA is going to be a move back down to about this 112-ish region, which is where I do have a cash secured put. I have it at 111 for this week, where I will happily buy NVIDIA shares, right? That's going to be my main level because, again, the shares I got here, I ended up pretty much exiting with ever slight profit, with my stop loss being hit, because again, in a market like this, you got to be really careful. But nonetheless, so that's kind of the main thing I'll be watching for moving forward on NVIDIA, right? One of those two levels I expect them to hold, right? No questions about that. I do expect them to hold. But those are the main two levels, whether it's right here or whether it's all the way down to 112, I do expect them to hold. But ideally, in the ideal scenario, unquestionably, why is Tesla moving weirdly pre-market? Did something news come out or something? I don't know. Or the market, something weird happened. I need to check it out after. Anyways, the thing that I'll be watching for moving forward for NVIDIA, though, ideally, is that it actually holds right around here, right? I want it to hold around here. Why is that? Because if you go to the 1 hour, which we're on right now with the EMAs, you can see, the EMAs are themselves, the 8 and the 21, are crossed back down to bearish. However, they're still both above the 50 EMA, which is this white line, which is good, right? That to me gives me essentially, it's almost like a ticking time bomb, right? Where essentially I want NVIDIA to get a bullish reaction, which essentially a bullish reaction will be a break above this trend line right here, which let's say it happens sometime tomorrow, 117.5 to as high as 118, something like that. I want to see a break above this level soon, like really soon, like within the first half of the day ideally, but sometime tomorrow, while the EMAs are still above the 50. That to me is kind of, the most important thing I'll be looking for moving forward. I want to see these EMAs stay above the 50 before, while NVIDIA finds a bullish reaction. Because if these EMAs cross back down below the 50, obviously it's not all game over. It's not, it's not the end of the world. But to me, that's going to signal more weakness than I expected, because then the stock took too long to actually find a bullish reaction and continuation. And the EMAs had enough time to cross back down under the 50, which is not what I want to see. That's going to be, again, not necessarily straight up concerning, but it is going to put, the brakes on the bullish momentum, at least a little bit, in my opinion. So let's see how that plays out moving forward, right? But those are the main things I'll be looking for into something as early as tomorrow, and most likely tomorrow, especially with FOMC. So let's see how that actually plays out, right? But again, it's kind of like a small mini ticking time bomb, if you will, which again, if we get that bullish reaction sooner than later, especially within the first 3 or so hours of tomorrow, that would be ideal. If not, I expect to move back down to somewhere around this region, right around here, which would be a true retest of this breakout that we had back here. Also, that 618 Fibonacci, again, about 112 per share. So one of those two things is the main thing I'll be watching my eyes for as early as tomorrow, but probably sometime this week. Now, if NVIDIA, that's to the downside. If NVIDIA does break out above this trend line of about 117.5, closer to 118, something like that, that's gonna be really, really bullish. That's gonna, continue the bullish momentum. The EMAs will hopefully at that point still be crossed to the bullish side above the 50, which would be obviously good news. And NVIDIA should break out and essentially small little bull flag breakout. And I think, again, sometime probably next week, essentially by the end of the month, I would expect NVIDIA to still make its way back up to this next overall major resistance point on the 1 hour chart rather, which will be somewhere closer to 126 to as high as about $130, which also would line up with roughly this 50 EMA, which is also sitting at 126 to as high as the channel top resistance, which again is closer to the $130 per share. That $4-ish range would be my main target for NVIDIA on that potential move up if we get the breakout of this trend line, which, you know, is something I would expect to happen, right? You know, if the bullish momentum hasn't completely faded, this should be a nice move up because again, you know, you have to understand it's been making lower lows, lower highs this whole time, right? And what it actually recently has done is actually started making higher highs and higher lows. So as long as this higher highs, higher lows momentum essentially continues, and why I'm drawing the Fibonacci in more bullish perspective from the lows to the highs like this and retracing it to the downside that we just did is only because we broke this high essentially, right? It started making these on the shorter time frame, at least these higher highs and higher lows, which is good. That is what I want to see. But again, the stock needs to start reacting ideally here. Worst case scenario will be somewhere around here. And that's going to be something that I'll watch because again, even if it comes down here as early as tomorrow, it'll still have time by Friday to make an actual reaction, break above this trend line and still make its way higher, ideally at least above 117, 118, because, you know, we still have that weekly chart kind of still haunting us, right? That we've obviously been talking for the past 3 weeks, but it's kind of back into question once again, because we're not seeing true like follow through just yet. We could, again, FOMC tomorrow, OPEX on Friday. You know, those catalysts can be something that can fuel a rally. Obviously, we don't know for sure if it will, but it has that possibility, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if that were to happen, let's watch for that, right? Let's watch for that. And let's see how this weekly candle closes again. Also, same target, about 117, 118. I want to see continued weekly candle closures above that. And that's probably the main thing I'm eyeballing right now for NVIDIA. To make things a little bit more interesting though, there was a pretty large NVIDIA bullish whale, I should say, that came in right over here. Very unusual call option that came in on NVIDIA, 1.6 million in calls, expiring in, not this Friday, expiring in about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. You can see here, April 4th, 130 strike above the ask, right? This is very unusual because it's short term, it's a lot of money, it's above the ask, and on top of all those factors, it's also out of the money, right? It's a lot of money and out of the money. Those are pretty unusual aspects. So this person right here, maybe they're bullish for Powell. I don't know what the case is, but clearly whoever bought this, either they have a lot of money to light on fire or they know something that we obviously do not. So let's see how that plays out. But clearly someone's bullish on NVIDIA for the next, you know, into the end of the month, we'll say. And honestly, as long as NVIDIA plays out this 1 hour the way I'm expecting it to, or at the very least, I guess, quote unquote, hoping. I don't like using the word hoping, but you know what I mean. You know, there is potential. There is still potential. I wouldn't fully count out the stock just yet. I still think this has a potential to move up to closer to the 126 to 130s by the end of the month. Of course, it'll take time, but this is roughly what I expect and what I'm seeing from the stock right now. So let's see how it plays out. But all in all, thank you so much for watching. I need to go check what the news is because after hours price movement on Tesla has been very strange. So I want to see if something came out. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.